Okay, hey everybody, welcome to an episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. So I have a really cool review for you guys from the brand Addiesdive. Yes, they are a factory homage brand offering high-spec wristwatches at ultra-affordable price points, best known for their dive watch offerings that pretty much offer classic looks at a fraction of the cost compared to industry mainstays. Now, in terms of this particular watch, though, I consider this an everyday watch. Some key characteristics in design language, you're looking for something that you can wear every day. Of course, you're going to be wanting that versatile blend of both sporty and dressy attributes. This is their sand dial model, the AD2059 in the desert colorway. And it's essentially an homage remix combining Rolex and Seiko design elements into a hyper affordable package. These go for $139.99 at full price direct, or they're currently on sale for just $85. Yes, you heard me right, guys, $85. And this particular unit was kindly sent in free of charge by the brand for this review. You can also enjoy a 5% discount using the code Addiesdive 2059. So definitely take advantage of that. I will leave a link down in the video description, and let's get on with this. So with that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay guys, the clear star of the show here is going to be this sand textured dial. Very cool at different angles. You can see gives you those dune vibes, which I can absolutely appreciate. Now, in terms of the dimensions here, guys, real sweet spot, just 38.5 millimeters in diameter with a 13 millimeter thickness. And you can see it does have quite a bit of a bubble back and, of course, a proud bezel there sitting well above the mid case. That mid case is nice and organic. Definitely very reminiscent of something like a Rolex Oyster case. Let me give it a quick little wipe here. With those high polished surfaces, of course, are going to come some smudges and fingerprints along the way, but I think it's pretty handsomely done. Now, getting into the lug to lug, it's just 47.9 millimeters lug to lug, 316L stainless steel. You have brushed and polished accents throughout, guys, and you can tell just by looking at this that this, this fits a particular profile, and it's something that's been very popularized as of late in terms of just kind of that everyday daily driver that's going to have a lot of versatility, that still kind of has a bit of a dressy aesthetic, right, in terms of things like the handset, the indices, and even, this Jubilee style bracelet. But it's also built quite robust because you do have a nice screw down crown, so it's going to give you a very confidence inspiring 10 bar or 100 meters of water resistance. You get a domed sapphire with inner AR coating. You're getting, of course, that crown, which is nicely screwed down and also signed, which is very, very cool. And you have inside, although you can't see it because it does have a solid case back there, which has something that a little bit more, I think, in line with their brand theme there, of course, being all about divers and action and everything like that. The movement inside is going to be the automatic Seiko Instruments NH35. So that does have a 41-hour power reserve and beats at 21,600 vibrations per hour or a 3 hertz beat rate. Also, this dial, guys, getting into the details on it, it's handsome. Like, check out the angles. Oh, actually, it looks like I got a little bit of a, is that a piece of dust? Okay. All right. Ooh. Yeah, I dig this. So there's the lines and kind of the waves within that kind of dune texturing, but there's also like a porous nature to it, which does give it, again, a very sandy kind of appearance, which I think looks very cool. Obviously, they did have to update their brand there, the branding, and I do like that they decided to give it that kind of different script, so the font is going to flow a little bit nicer with a more dressy aesthetic. So I think that's very, very cool. Now, the bracelet here, this is a 20 millimeter lug width, which is great. Solid 5-link Jubilee style. You're getting female end links, split pin construction. So, at this price point, $85, can't get too upset. But you're also going to get this milled push button clasp. which I think is really nice. And it's about 17.8 millimeters across, and it works. It does also have 5 positions of manual micro adjustment, as you guys can see, push button, and then they're more traditional Addiesdive script there in terms of the logo and the branding on the signed clasp. So very cool, nice taper here, guys. Very organic, nothing crazy. But actually, what we can do next is actually get this on wrist and see how it wears. Okay, guys, as you can see on my 7.5-inch wrist, this sits really beautifully centered. Oof. Check that out. Great taper, great articulation. Of course, with this multi-link setup, it just wears really nice. Of course, if I get my wrist a bit too close to the camera lens, it's just going to somehow make the watch appear a lot larger, and that has a lot to do with the perspective distortion due to the focal length. So what I like to do is keep my wrist nice and low, and then tighten up the frame so that you guys can get still a detailed look, but just add a bit of a truer aspect ratio as to how this may lay on your own wrist. And you guys can see there, very nice. Again, very subtle in terms of the texturing, but when it's there, it is quite impressive. And sometimes it can wash out a bit, and then maybe you don't see it quite as much, and it still looks quite clean. And of course, these are pretty iconic visuals in terms of the bracelet and the case, and then getting into the dial setup there, right, which it definitely goes away from Rolex and more towards like a Grand Seiko in terms of really leaning into the texturing there, the 3D nature, and then the nice classic kind of dolphin hands, and then the multifaceted indices. So this is just a clean looking watch. Of course, you do have that signed crown again, which the branding might be a bit more aggressive than you would expect. But for those of you who have larger collections, I feel like something like this just really fits the bill. So with that said, let's actually get this off the wrist, set up for some loom shots, low light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, now while some of you are probably thinking, why did I say loom shot, considering there's no loom on this watch? Guys, of course, I didn't mean that. It's just a low light transition. So one thing I like to do, of course, is, hit the lights here and really get this into some less than optimal lighting, to include, of course, some transitional lighting to really just showcase how this watch is going to render in less than optimal lighting. And you guys can see those colors, textures, and finishes. The way that they play with the light is quite nice, very nice in terms of just the overall theme. And of course, it's pulling from a lot of different designs, some iconography being stronger than others. The fit and finish is nothing, luxurious to write home about. It's an $85 watch at the end of the day. But I have to say that, in terms of as you're looking at how uniform the light glides over that satin brushing, it definitely looks quite good. Also, the dial, the depth that's there, I like that it doesn't really overpower. Like, even when you get into some of the harsher angles here, it still doesn't get too crazy some certain times, especially in these more affordable price points. When you start getting dial texturing, it can be a bit hit or miss. And I'll say Addiesdive, I feel, really hit this one on the head. So very cool. Also, you're even going to get a nice amount of contrast thanks to the high polished nature of the handset and indexing. And then even the 60-minute index that's just kind of printed on there all has a nice amount of contrast. So with that said, let's go ahead, get these lights going again, and get into some closing thoughts. All right, guys. So on the wrist, very much Seiko SARB-like, right? At that 38.5 millimeter sweet spot. Well balanced and versatile wear. That also clearly recalls Rolex DateJust, right? In terms of the aesthetic. In terms of model variants, check the site links for current options, availability, and pricing. But there are about 2 other, at least that I know of at the time of filming this video, 2 other options that are available. Now, In terms of comparable models, guys, the everyday sports watch space is really seeing a surge in popularity, so brands are all in a hurry to offer their take in this versatile space. Although many brands will charge you a good amount more for similar specs, right? When you think about Sapphire, when you think about that Seiko NH movement, full, stainless steel, nothing hollow, everything nicely milled and everything like that, that's pretty compelling at just $85. There are a lot of watches that are going to have similar specs to this that are going to be closer to 500 and some even higher. So that's definitely something to consider when, if you're somebody that's definitely more value driven. Now, getting into the bottom line for me, guys, for well under $100, you're definitely getting a ton of objective value. Sure, subjectively, the styling and execution may be on the more specific side, right, in terms of a very specific audience. But at $85, it's really hard to feel bad about any of its perceived shortcomings, because a lot of them, again, ultimately are just going to be based on the particular buyer and their tastes, because on paper, this really does deliver a whole lot. And again, some of those shortcomings, things like a split pin construction on the bracelet, I mean, it's still solid bracelet. It's it's just like one other upgrade it could have got would be screw pins and like a quick adjust clasp, right? Like those are like, what else could you add besides that? Maybe put a little bit of extra lume. So I don't know. Like there's not a lot that's really missing from this. And the price point is just wild for being, again, currently on sale for about $85. So with that said, let me know what you all think down in the comments below. If you like the video, please hit like, and if you're ready, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.